The phone buzzed urgently at 3 a.m., jolting Olivia Chen from a fitful sleep. The blue light illuminated her small studio apartment where medical bills covered every surface like wallpaper. Her 20-month-old daughter Lily's labored breathing from the makeshift crib beside her bed was the only sound that mattered. Olivia's trembling fingers typed another desperate message, unaware that fate had just connected her to one of the most powerful men in the country. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Olivia pressed send, then collapsed back against her thin pillow, tears streaming silently down her face. The weight of single motherhood had never felt heavier than in this moment, with her baby girl burning with fever and no help in sight. What Olivia didn't realize was that she had just texted a wrong number, one that belonged to Alexander Donovan, CEO of Horizon Pharmaceuticals. 3 miles away, in a penthouse overlooking the Boston skyline, Alexander Donovan's phone chimed with a notification. He rarely slept these days, preferring instead to work through the night when the demands of running a billion-dollar pharmaceutical empire felt less suffocating. The message from an unknown number made him pause. Coffee, cup halfway to his lips. It clearly wasn't meant for him, but something about the raw desperation in those few lines pierced through his carefully constructed professional armor. "I think you have the wrong number," he typed back, "but it sounds like your child needs immediate medical attention. Is there something I can do to help?" In her tiny apartment, Olivia stared at the response in confusion. She double-checked the number. She had accidentally transposed 2 digits in her exhaustion. This wasn't Dr. Harrison, her daughter's pediatrician, who had given her his personal number for emergencies. This was a total stranger. She should ignore it, but desperation made her fingers move. "I'm so sorry for bothering you. My daughter has pneumonia, and her fever keeps spiking. We've been turned away from 2 hospitals already because my insurance lapsed last week when I lost my job. I don't know what to do anymore." Alexander frowned at his screen. In his world of corporate mergers and pharmaceutical patents, human suffering was often reduced to statistics on quarterly reports. But there was something about this anonymous plea that cut through years of detachment. Perhaps it was the late hour, or perhaps it was the anniversary of his own sister's death 20 years ago from a treatable illness that their family couldn't afford to address. "Where are you located?" he typed, already reaching for his laptop. Olivia hesitated. She shouldn't share her address with a stranger, but Lily's wheezing had grown worse in the last few minutes. What choice did she have? Eastern Boston, Maple Street Apartments, number 307. Alexander's fingers flew across his keyboard, making calls and sending messages to his personal assistant even at this ungodly hour. "Stay calm. Help is coming. I'm sending a private doctor to you right now. They'll be there in 20 minutes. Olivia stared at her phone in disbelief. Who was this person? Was this some kind of cruel joke? She didn't have time to wonder as Lily began coughing violently, her tiny body shaking with the effort to breathe. The knock on her door came exactly 18 minutes later. Olivia peered through the peephole to see a professional-looking woman, in scrubs, holding a medical bag. "Miss Chen, I'm Dr. Patel. I was sent to help your daughter." Olivia opened the door with shaking hands. "How did you? Who sent you?" "Mr. Donovan arranged for me to come. May I see your daughter?" Dr. Patel's voice was calm and professional as she moved past Olivia to where Lily lay whimpering in her crib. "Donovan? I don't know any Donovan," Olivia said, following the doctor to her daughter's bedside. "Alexander Donovan, CEO of Horizon Pharmaceuticals," Dr. Patel explained absently as she began examining Lily with practiced efficiency. "He has arrangements with our private medical group for emergencies." Olivia's mind spun as she watched the doctor listen to Lily's chest. Horizon Pharmaceuticals was one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country. She had seen their name on medication bottles and advertisements, but never imagined she would have any connection to such a massive corporation. Dr. Patel worked quickly, administering medication and setting up a portable oxygen concentrator. Her oxygen levels are concerning, and this pneumonia is aggressive. She needs to be in a hospital with proper monitoring and IV antibiotics. Olivia's heart sank. We've tried. They won't admit her without insurance or upfront payment. That won't be an issue anymore, Dr. Patel said, already typing on her tablet. Mr. Donovan has arranged everything. There's a private medical transport coming to take both of you to Massachusetts General. They'll be expecting you. As if on cue, Olivia's phone buzzed with another message. Dr. Patel will take care of your daughter until transport arrives. Everything has been arranged at Mass General. Please don't worry about costs. Just focus on your daughter's recovery. Tears blurred Olivia's vision as she clutched her phone. Why would he do this? He doesn't even know us. Dr. Patel smiled gently as she continued monitoring Lily. Mr. Donovan has his reasons. I've worked with him for years, and while he may seem cold in the business world, he has a private side few people see. Within 30 minutes, paramedics arrived with a stretcher specifically sized for a toddler. They moved with practiced efficiency, transferring Lily to the stretcher while maintaining her oxygen supply. Olivia felt like she was watching everything through a fog of exhaustion and disbelief. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Ma'am, you can bring whatever you need for a hospital stay. There's room for you in the transport, one of the paramedics told her. Olivia grabbed her worn backpack, stuffing it with a change of clothes for herself and Lily's favorite stuffed elephant. Her hands moved automatically while her mind struggled to process what was happening. Yesterday, she had been drowning in medical bills, fired from her waitressing job for missing too many shifts due to Lily's illness, and facing eviction. Now, a stranger, a billionaire CEO, was swooping in like some corporate guardian angel. As they loaded Lily into the medical transport vehicle, Olivia noticed it wasn't a standard ambulance, but a high-end medical van with equipment she'd never seen before. The paramedic helped her climb in beside her daughter, and as they pulled away from the curb, Olivia typed with trembling fingers, "I don't know how to thank you. Why are you doing this for us?" The response came quickly. "Thank me by focusing on your daughter. As for why, let's just say I understand what it's like to be helpless when someone you love is suffering. We can talk more when Lily is stable." Olivia hadn't even told him her daughter's name. He must have gotten it from Dr. Patel. The thought should have disturbed her, but in her exhaustion and relief, it felt like a lifeline that someone powerful knew who they were, that they weren't invisible anymore. Massachusetts General Hospital was a different world from the community hospitals that had turned them away. They were whisked through a private entrance and immediately taken to a pediatric intensive care unit where a team of doctors was waiting. No one asked for insurance cards. No one mentioned payment. The doctors spoke to her respectfully, explaining Lily's condition and treatment plan, as if Olivia were a valued client rather than a poverty-stricken single mother. "Your daughter has severe bacterial pneumonia complicated by her asthma," the lead physician explained. "We've started her on IV antibiotics and respiratory support. With aggressive treatment, children usually respond quickly. She's in good hands now." As Lily was settled into a private room with monitoring equipment and nurses checking on her every few minutes, Olivia sank into a comfortable recliner beside the hospital bed. For the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope. Her phone buzzed again. "Get some rest. Everything is taken care of. I've arranged for some necessities to be delivered to you at the hospital. We'll check in tomorrow." Olivia stared at the message, wondering what kind of man would extend such generosity to a complete stranger. Alexander Donovan was just a name. To her, a name associated with a pharmaceutical giant often criticized for high drug prices. The contradiction made her head spin, or perhaps it was just the exhaustion of weeks spent caring for a sick child while working double shifts finally catching up to her. She must have dozed off because she woke to a nurse gently shaking her shoulder. "Miss Chen, there's a delivery for you." A hospital volunteer wheeled in a cart containing several bags from high-end stores. Inside, Olivia found clothes in her size, toiletries, a phone charger, a soft blanket, and even a change of clothes for Lily when she was well enough to wear them. At the bottom of one bag was an envelope containing $5,000 in cash and a note that simply read, "For immediate expenses." The gesture brought fresh tears to her eyes. It wasn't just the money, it was the thoughtfulness behind it. Someone had considered what a mother unexpectedly staying in a hospital might need, down to the comfort items and personal necessities that made a difference in such situations. Morning brought marked improvement in Lily's condition. The fever had broken and her breathing was less labored. As the pediatrician checked Lily's vitals, Olivia's phone rang with an unknown number. "Ms. Chen, this is Sarah Winters, Mr. Donovan's executive assistant. Mr. Donovan would like to know if you would be comfortable with him visiting later today. He understands if you prefer privacy during this difficult time." The formality of the request struck Olivia as oddly considerate. This man had already intervened in the most intimate crisis of her life, yet he was asking permission to visit. "Yes, that would be fine," Olivia replied, running a hand through her unwashed hair self-consciously. "Please thank him for everything he's done." "Of course. He'll be there around 2 this afternoon." Olivia used the morning to shower in the private bathroom attached to Lily's room, change into some of the new clothes that had been delivered, and try to make herself presentable. She didn't know why it mattered what she looked like when meeting her mysterious benefactor, but it did. At precisely 2 o'clock, a tall man in a tailored suit appeared in the doorway of Lily's room. Alexander Donovan was not what Olivia had expected. In her mind, billionaire CEOs were older, imposing figures, with cold eyes and calculating expressions. Alexander looked to be in his early 40s, with dark hair showing traces of premature grey at the temples, and eyes that carried a warmth that contradicted his powerful stance. "Miss Chen? I'm Alexander Donovan. May I come in?" Olivia nodded, suddenly feeling tongue-tied. "Please call me Olivia. I don't even know how to begin thanking you for what you've done." Alexander moved to Lily's bedside, studying the sleeping toddler with an expression Olivia couldn't quite read. "How is she doing?" "Much better. The doctors say she's responding well to the antibiotics. Her fever is gone and her oxygen levels are improving." Olivia stood awkwardly at the foot of the bed, watching this stranger who had changed their lives overnight. "I'm glad to hear it," Alexander said, his voice softer than she had imagined it would be. "Children are remarkably resilient when they receive proper care." The unspoken implication that Lily hadn't been receiving proper care before stung Olivia's pride. "I tried everything to get her help. I took her to clinics, I begged doctors, I applied for emergency Medicaid. But without insurance, no one would admit her." Alexander's expression shifted to something like regret. "I didn't mean to imply you hadn't done everything possible. I know how broken our healthcare system is. My company tries to provide patient assistance programs, but the reality is that people still fall through the cracks." He moved away from the bed and took a seat in one of the visitor chairs, gesturing for Olivia to sit as well. "I'm curious, though. How did you lose your insurance coverage?" The question felt invasive, but Olivia reminded herself that this man had paid thousands of dollars to help her daughter. He deserved some answers. I worked at Riverdale Restaurant as a waitress. They don't offer benefits, but I made just enough to afford a marketplace insurance plan with a subsidy. 3 weeks ago, Lily got sick with what we thought was just a cold. I missed several shifts staying home with her, and when she seemed to get better, I picked up extra shifts to make up the lost income. Olivia's voice cracked as she continued, but then she got worse, much worse. I had to miss more work, and my manager told me not to come back. Without income, I couldn't pay the premium, and my insurance lapsed. By the time I realized how serious her pneumonia was, we were uninsured and broke. Alexander listened intently, his expression unreadable. And the child's father? Not in the picture, Olivia said tersely. He decided parenthood wasn't for him before Lily was even born. Alexander nodded, not pressing further on that sensitive topic. What about family, parents or siblings who could help? My parents died in a car accident when I was in college. I dropped out to take care of my younger brother until he finished high school. He's in the Air Force now, stationed overseas. She didn't mention that she had been studying nursing before her parents' death derailed her education and career plans. So you've been a caregiver for much of your life, Alexander observed. Olivia had never thought of it that way. I suppose I have. Alexander seemed to be considering something, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest of his chair. Ms. Chen, Olivia, I'd like to help you beyond this immediate crisis. She immediately stiffened. We don't need charity. A small smile touched his lips. I wasn't offering charity. I was going to offer you a job. A job? Olivia blinked in surprise. Doing what? I don't have a degree, and my recent work experience is limited to waitressing and retail. Horizon Pharmaceuticals has a patient advocacy division. We need people who understand firsthand what it's like to navigate the healthcare system without resources or support. People who can identify the gaps in our patient assistance programs and help us design better solutions. The proposal sounded too good to be true. Why me? You don't know anything about me. Alexander's expression grew serious. Sometimes in life, we get unexpected windows into people's character. Your text message wasn't just a cry for help. It showed someone who had exhausted every option before reaching out. It showed a mother who was focused entirely on her child's well-being rather than her own comfort. Those are qualities I value. Olivia wasn't convinced. This feels like pity. It's not pity, Alexander said firmly. It's recognition of potential. And perhaps, he hesitated, perhaps it's also a way for me to address a personal failure. Something in his tone made Olivia curious. What do you mean? Alexander was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice had changed. When I was 12, my sister Emma got sick. My family was poor, the kind of poor where you choose between electricity and food some months. Emma needed specialized care that we couldn't afford, and despite my parents' best efforts, she died waiting for treatment that never came. The personal revelation surprised Olivia. This wasn't the rehearsed corporate story she had expected. I promised myself that when I had the power to prevent such situations, I would, Alexander continued. I built Horizon Pharmaceuticals with that mission in mind, but somewhere along the way, the corporate realities began to overshadow the human element. Your text message reminded me of why I started this company in the first place. Lily stirred, in her sleep, drawing both adults' attention back to the small bed. Her color was better today, the alarming pallor replaced by the healthy flush of a child on the mend. Think about the job offer, Alexander said, standing to leave. There's no pressure or obligation. Regardless of your decision, Lily's medical care is covered, and I've arranged for 3 months of your rent to be paid while she recovers. Olivia stood as well, overwhelmed by his generosity. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Alexander replied. "Just focus on getting your daughter well. We can discuss the rest later." As he turned to leave, Olivia found her voice. "Mr. Donovan? Thank you for answering a wrong number text in the middle of the night. Most people would have ignored it." Alexander paused in the doorway, his expression softening. Most people haven't experienced what it's like to be on the other side of that desperate message. With a small nod, he was gone, leaving Olivia to process everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. The next few days passed in a blur of medical updates, improving vital signs, and visits from various hospital staff. Lily improved steadily, moving from the PICU to a regular pediatric room. Alexander didn't visit again, but his assistant Sarah called daily to check on their progress and ensure they had everything they needed. On the fourth day, as Olivia was helping Lily with her lunch, a hospital administrator knocked on their door. "Miss Chen, I wanted to personally assure you that all expenses related to your daughter's care have been covered in full by the Horizon Foundation. Additionally, we've arranged for home nursing visits during her recovery period." "The Horizon Foundation?" Olivia asked. "Yes, it's the charitable arm of Horizon Pharmaceuticals. They've also enrolled Lily in our comprehensive care program, which ensures any follow-up care or medications will be provided at no cost for the next year." After the administrator left, Olivia sat beside Lily's bed, watching her daughter color in a book that one of the nurses had brought. The contrast between their situation now and just a few days ago was stark, from desperate text message to comprehensive medical care, all because she had accidentally transposed 2 digits in a phone number. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander's number. "How is Lily today?" Olivia smiled as she typed back, "Much better, eating normally and coloring. The doctors say we might be able to go home in 2 days. Excellent news. Have you thought about my offer?" Olivia had been thinking about little else besides Lily's recovery and Alexander's job proposal. The opportunity to work for a major pharmaceutical company to potentially help others in situations like hers was tempting, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this was all happening too fast, that accepting would somehow compromise her independence. "I have, but I'm still not sure. It's a big change." Alexander's response came quickly. "Understandable. There's no rush. Focus on Lily's recovery first. When you're ready, Sarah can arrange a proper interview and tour of our Boston offices." The thoughtfulness of his approach, offering opportunity without pressure, made Olivia reconsider her initial wariness. This didn't feel like a wealthy man's whim or a corporate PR move. It felt like something more genuine. That evening, as Lily slept peacefully without the raspy breathing that had haunted them for weeks, Olivia searched online for information about Alexander Donovan. Most articles described him as a brilliant but intensely private businessman who had built Horizon Pharmaceuticals from a small research startup into a global company over 15 years. Unlike many CEOs, he rarely gave interviews or appeared at public events. One article mentioned that the company invested an unusually high percentage of profits back into research for rare childhood diseases, a fact that aligned with the personal story Alexander had shared about his sister. Another piece criticized the company for its drug pricing, while acknowledging its extensive patient assistance programs. Nowhere could Olivia find any mention of Alexander's personal life. No information about a wife, children, or even hobbies. It was as if he existed solely as the face of his company, with no identity outside of it. As she scrolled through corporate photos of him at various functions, Olivia found herself studying his eyes. Even in formal settings, surrounded by business associates, There was something in his expression that hinted at the compassionate man who had responded to her desperate text message. Something that made her wonder if perhaps they had more in common than their vastly different circumstances might suggest. 6 days after her accidental text, Olivia and Lily were cleared to go home. A private car service arrived to transport them, and Olivia was shocked to find their apartment had been cleaned and stocked with groceries. On the kitchen counter was a new smartphone with a note. "Your old phone plan had limited data. This one is better for a working professional. My number is programmed in contacts. AD." The presumption should have bothered her, but Olivia found herself touched by the thoughtful gesture. The new phone was the latest model, with a case that matched the color of her backpack, a detail that indicated someone had been paying attention. That night, after settling Lily into her freshly made bed with clean sheets that smelled of lavender, Olivia took a deep breath and typed a message to Alexander. "We're home safely. Lily is sleeping well. I've decided to accept your job offer if it's still open. Not out of obligation, but because I believe I could actually make a difference in that role." The response came almost immediately. "The offer stands. Sarah will contact you tomorrow with details. Welcome to Horizon, Olivia." As she set the phone down, Olivia looked around the small apartment that had felt like a prison of poverty just a week ago. Nothing physical had changed. It was still the same modest space with second-hand furniture and thin walls. But something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of possibility, a path forward that wasn't just about survival, all because she had sent a text message to the wrong number in the darkest hour of the night, and someone had chosen to answer. 2 weeks later, Olivia stood outside the gleaming glass headquarters of Horizon Pharmaceuticals in downtown Boston, clutching her new portfolio and trying to calm her nerves. The building towered 40 stories above the city, its modern architecture a stark contrast to the historic structures surrounding it. This was her first day as a patient advocacy specialist, and despite Alexander's assurances that she was perfect for the role, imposter syndrome weighed heavily on her shoulders. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, thinking of Lily, who was spending her first day at Horizon's on-site childcare facility, another benefit Olivia never imagined having access to. The toddler had recovered remarkably well from her pneumonia, her resilience a daily reminder to Olivia of her own capacity to adapt and overcome. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the revolving doors into a soaring lobby of marble and light. A security guard greeted her by name before she could even introduce herself. "Ms. Chen, welcome to Horizon. Ms. Winters is expecting you on the 38th floor." He handed her a security badge with her photo already printed on it, though she had no memory of sending a photo for this purpose. The elevator whisked her upward with disconcerting speed. Olivia tried not to fidget with her new clothes, a professional wardrobe that had appeared at her apartment door 3 days ago with a note that read, "Standard new hire package. See you Monday. AD." The clothes fit perfectly, making her wonder exactly how Alexander had determined her size. When the elevator doors opened onto the executive floor, Sarah Winters was waiting, a poised woman in her 50s with silver-streaked dark hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. "Olivia, welcome," Sarah said warmly, extending her hand. "I'm so glad you decided to join us. How is Lily adjusting to the childcare center?" "She seemed happy when I left her," Olivia replied, following Sarah down a corridor lined with glass-walled offices. "The facilities are incredible. I've never seen a childcare center with that level of staffing and resources." Sarah smiled. Alexander insisted on creating a space where employees could feel completely confident about their children's care. "It's one of our most popular benefits. She paused outside a corner office with a view of Boston Harbor. "This is where you'll be working." Olivia stared in disbelief. "This is mine? I thought I'd be in a cubicle somewhere." "Patient advocacy is a cornerstone of our mission," Sarah explained. "Alexander believes the role deserves appropriate status within the company hierarchy." The office was elegant but not ostentatious, with a desk, comfortable seating area, and state-of-the-art computer setup. On the desk was a framed photo of Lily that Olivia recognized from her own phone, another mysterious detail that she filed away with the growing list of questions about Alexander Donovan's methods. "Your first meeting is at 10, Sarah continued, handing Olivia a tablet. "You'll be joining the Patient Assistance Program Review Committee. They're evaluating why certain demographics aren't utilizing our resources effectively." Olivia clutched, the tablet panic rising. "I don't know anything about program evaluation or demographics analysis. I don't even have a college degree." Sarah's expression softened. "What you have is more valuable, first-hand experience navigating a system designed to exclude people like you. The committee has plenty of analysts and statisticians. What they lack is someone who understands the human obstacles that numbers can't capture." Before Olivia could protest further, Sarah was leading her to a conference room where 8 people in business attire sat around a large table. All conversation stopped when they entered. "Everyone, this is Olivia Chen, our new patient advocacy specialist," Sarah announced. "Olivia, meet the PAP Review Committee." Introductions went by in a blur of names and titles that Olivia knew she wouldn't remember. She took a seat at the only empty chair, trying not to show her nervousness as she glanced around the table at faces that reflected varying degrees of curiosity and skepticism. The committee chair, a stern-looking man named Dr. Richard Hoffman, began the meeting by presenting data on program utilization. "As you can see from these charts, our patient assistance reaches only 47% of eligible patients. The question is, why the remaining 53% aren't accessing resources that could help them?" Olivia listened as committee members offered theories: complex application processes, insufficient outreach, lack of digital access among lower-income populations. The discussion was academic and detached, with frequent references to these people and that demographic. When there was a pause, Olivia found herself speaking before she could reconsider. "Have any of you ever tried to complete one of our assistance applications?" The question landed like a stone in still water, creating ripples of surprise around the table. "It's a standard form," Dr. Hoffman replied dismissively, "designed by our legal team to capture necessary information while complying with privacy regulations." "May I see a copy?" Olivia asked. Someone slid a multi-page document across the table. Olivia flipped through it slowly, nodding to herself. "This form requires tax returns from the previous year, 3 months of pay stubs, bank statements, and a letter from a physician on official letterhead." "Yes, to verify eligibility," someone explained. "I understand that," Olivia said carefully, "but I'd like to walk through a scenario with you. Imagine you're a single parent working 2 jobs. You don't have a printer at home. You don't have reliable transportation. Your doctor is at a community clinic where you might see a different provider each visit. You're behind on your cell phone bill because you had to choose between that and your electric bill this month." She let the scenario sink in before continuing. "How do you gather these documents? Where do you print them? When do you find time to complete this application between your jobs and childcare? And if you manage all that, where do you find the mental bandwidth to follow up when weeks pass without a response?" The silence that followed her questions was profound. Olivia's heart hammered in her chest, certain she had overstepped on her first day. Then a woman at the far end of the table spoke up. "She's right. We've created a system that works for people who already have resources and stability, not for those who need help most." The observation opened a floodgate of discussion, with committee members suddenly examining their assumptions and processes with new eyes. Olivia found herself at the center of the conversation, drawing on her own experiences to illustrate the invisible barriers that statistics couldn't capture. By the end of the meeting, the committee had outlined a complete redesign of the application process, including mobile-friendly forms, fewer documentation requirements, and community-based assistance for completion. As people filed out, Dr. Hoffman approached Olivia. "That was illuminating. I've been running this committee for 3 years, and we've never made that much progress in a single session." "I hope I wasn't too forward," Olivia replied. "Forward is exactly what we needed." He extended his hand. "Welcome." To the team, Ms. Chen. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of orientation meetings and introductions. By 5 o'clock, Olivia's head was spinning with new information as she made her way to the childcare center to collect Lily. She found her daughter playing contentedly with building blocks under the watchful eye of a caregiver. Lily's face lit up when she spotted Olivia, her little legs carrying her across the room with excited steps that still retained a hint of toddler wobble. "Mama, I made a castle!" Lily exclaimed, pointing proudly at a haphazard stack of blocks. "It's beautiful!" "Sweetheart," Olivia said, kneeling to embrace her daughter. The simple moment of connection grounded her after a day of navigating unfamiliar corporate waters. As they prepared to leave, the childcare director approached with a smile. "Lily had a wonderful first day. She's quite advanced for her age. Her vocabulary and problem-solving skills are impressive." Pride swelled in Olivia's chest. Despite all their struggles, she had always prioritized reading to Lily and engaging her curious mind. "Thank you. We read together every night." "It shows," the director replied. "Oh, and Mr. Donovan asked me to give you this." She handed Olivia an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "Heard your first meeting was a success. Not surprised. Car service is arranged for your transportation home this week while you adjust to the new schedule. Keys to a company apartment are enclosed if you're interested. It's closer to the office and in a building with other Horizon families. No pressure either way. AD. Attached was a photo of a bright, modern apartment with 2 bedrooms and a small balcony, along with an address in a safe neighborhood close to the Horizon building. Olivia stared at the note, conflicted emotions swirling. Every time she thought she had established boundaries, Alexander found a way to extend his generosity further. It was becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between professional opportunity and personal interest in these gestures. The car service was waiting outside, as promised. As Olivia settled Lily into the car seat that had mysteriously appeared in the vehicle, she found herself wondering about Alexander's absence. Despite his regular text messages checking on their welfare, she hadn't seen him since the hospital. It was as if he were orchestrating her new life from behind a curtain, visible only through his acts of kindness. Their tiny apartment felt even smaller when they returned that evening. Olivia made dinner while Lily played, the routine familiar, yet somehow different, now that it existed in the shadow of potential change. The company apartment would offer more space, a safer neighborhood, and proximity to work and childcare. It made practical sense, yet accepting felt like another step away from self-reliance and toward a life increasingly shaped by Alexander Donovan's influence. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. As she tucked Lily into bed that night, Olivia found herself at a crossroads. "What do you think, little one? Should we move to a new home?" Lily yawned sleepily. "Will my elephant come too?" Olivia smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. "Of course, your elephant goes wherever you go." Then yes, Lily murmured, drifting towards sleep with the simple logic of childhood. Later, as Olivia sat on her worn sofa contemplating the apartment keys, her phone chimed with a text from Alexander. No pressure about the apartment, just an option if it helps. She hesitated before responding. It's very generous, but I'm concerned about accepting so much. This goes beyond professional support. His reply came quickly. Fair concern. Rent would be standard employee rate, deducted from your salary like any corporate housing. You'd be paying your own way, just with better options than market would typically allow. The answer was logical and removed any sense of personal obligation. Still, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Alexander's interest in her welfare than professional courtesy. Why haven't I seen you at the office? She typed impulsively. There was a longer pause before his response. Traveling for business this week. Back Friday. Dinner that evening to discuss your first week. Purely professional. The addition of purely professional made Olivia smile despite herself. Was the powerful CEO actually nervous about her interpretation of his invitation? Dinner. Sounds fine, she replied, and thank you for the apartment option. We'll take it. The decision felt both terrifying and right, a step toward embracing new possibilities rather than clinging to the familiar limitations that had defined her life for so long. The next 3 days were a blur of work and logistics. With Sarah's help, Olivia arranged for movers to pack and transport their meager belongings to the company apartment. The contrast between their possessions and the spacious new space was stark. Their furniture looked like dollhouse pieces in the larger rooms. We'll need to get some additional items, Sarah observed tactfully as they surveyed the apartment after the movers left. I'll take care of it, Olivia said firmly. My first paycheck comes next week. Sarah's expression was knowing but respectful. Of course. Let me know if you need recommendations for affordable options. By Friday, they had settled into a tentative routine. Lily had claimed her new bedroom with delight, especially after Olivia used her savings to purchase colorful bedding and a small bookshelf. The apartment building had a playground where other Horizon employees brought their children, creating immediate social connections that had been lacking in their isolated existence before. Olivia had thrown herself into her work, quickly earning respect from colleagues, impressed by her insights and practical approaches to systemic problems. She had already proposed 3 significant changes to patient outreach programs that had been enthusiastically adopted by senior management. When Friday evening arrived, Olivia felt a strange nervousness as she prepared for dinner with Alexander. She told herself it was simply the appropriate respect due to a CEO, but the extra time she spent selecting an outfit and applying subtle makeup suggested otherwise. Lily was invited to a pajama movie night at the building's childcare center. Another thoughtful touch that solved the babysitting problem without drawing attention to it. As Olivia dropped her daughter off, she couldn't help but marvel at how quickly their world had expanded from isolated struggle to supported community. At precisely 7 o'clock, there was a knock at her door. Olivia opened it to find Alexander standing there, looking more casual than she had seen him before in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that softened his usual corporate appearance. "You look nice," he said simply, his blue eyes taking in her appearance with appreciation that remained professional. "Thank you," Olivia replied, suddenly self-conscious. "Should I have dressed more formally?" Alexander smiled. "Not at all. I thought we'd go somewhere low-key. Less chance of business interruptions." He led her to a small Italian restaurant a few blocks from the apartment building, an unassuming place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. It wasn't what Olivia had expected from a billionaire CEO, but the owner greeted Alexander by name, suggesting he was a regular patron. Antonio's family has owned this restaurant for 40 years, Alexander explained as they were seated in a quiet corner booth. They make the best risotto in Boston. As they settled in, with menus, Olivia studied Alexander openly for the first time. Away from the hospital setting and without the distraction of crisis, she could see the subtle signs of stress in the fine lines around his eyes and the tension he carried in his shoulders. "How was your business trip?" she asked, genuinely, curious about the man behind the generosity that had transformed her life. "Productive but exhausting," Alexander replied. "We're negotiating access agreements in several developing countries, trying to make our medications available at cost to populations that couldn't otherwise afford them." "That sounds like important work." "It is, but it's complicated by governments, local healthcare infrastructures, and competing corporate interests." He set his menu aside. "But I'd rather hear about your first week. Sarah tells me you've already made quite an impression." Olivia felt a flush of pride. "I'm just offering a different perspective." "Which is exactly what we needed," Alexander said. "Tell me about the application redesign you proposed." As they ordered and began their meal, conversation flowed easily between them. Alexander listened intently as Olivia described her observations and ideas, asking insightful questions that pushed her thinking further. There was none of the condescension she had feared. He treated her insights as valuable contributions rather than naive suggestions. When the topic shifted to Lily's adjustment to the childcare center, Olivia noticed a softening in Alexander's expression. "Children are remarkably adaptable," he observed, "more so than adults usually." "She's thriving with the structure and socialization," Olivia agreed. "The staff mentioned she's advanced for her age." "Not surprising, given her mother," Alexander said with a smile that made Olivia's heart beat a little faster. The comment hung between them, blurring the line between professional compliment and personal admiration. Olivia redirected the conversation to safer ground. "I still don't understand why you created this position for me. There must be people with more qualifications." Alexander considered her question seriously. "Qualifications on paper aren't always what matter most. Your text message that night, it was a window into a reality that most of my executives have never experienced. You navigated a broken system with dignity and resourcefulness. That's expertise we desperately needed." "So it was a business decision," Olivia clarified, uncertain why the thought disappointed her. "Initially, yes," Alexander admitted, "but I've come to respect you for far more than your perspective on our assistance programs." The honesty in his voice made Olivia look up sharply. Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment, the pretense of a purely professional dinner seemed absurd. Alexander broke the moment first, glancing down at his plate. "I should maintain appropriate boundaries as your employer." "Is that all you are?" Olivia found herself asking. The question surprised them both. Alexander set down his fork, his expression serious. "What would you like me to be, Olivia?" The directness of his counter-question took her breath away. This was the crux of the confusion she had felt all week, the blurring lines between gratitude, professional respect, and something more personal that was developing between them. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Everything has happened so quickly. 2 weeks ago, I was texting a desperate plea to my daughter's doctor. Now I have a career, a new home, and," she hesitated, "a relationship with you that I can't quite define." Alexander nodded thoughtfully. "I understand the concern. The power imbalance alone makes this complicated." "It's not just that," Olivia said, trying to articulate feelings she hadn't fully processed. "I'm grateful for everything you've done, but I don't want gratitude to be confused with other emotions. And I don't want to be a charity project or a way for you to resolve your past. "Is that what you think this is?" Alexander asked quietly. "I don't know what this is," Olivia admitted. "That's the problem." Alexander was silent for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "What if we take a step back? You continue in your role, which you've more than proven you deserve. I maintain professional distance while you establish yourself at Horizon. And if, after some time, we both feel there might be something worth exploring beyond a professional relationship, we discuss it then." The proposal was both disappointing and relieving, a rational approach to an emotionally complex situation. Olivia nodded slowly. "That seems wise." "For what it's worth," Alexander added, his voice softer, "you've never been a charity project. To me, Olivia, from the moment I read your text message, I recognized something in you that resonated with me. A determination to overcome impossible odds for the sake of someone you love. Everything since has only confirmed that initial impression." The sincerity in his words touched something deep within Olivia, a longing to be seen and valued that had gone unmet for so long. For years, she had been defined by her struggles. The poor single mother, the college dropout, the waitress living paycheck to paycheck. Alexander seemed to see beyond those labels to something essential about her character. "Thank you for saying that," she said simply. As they finished their meal and began the walk back to her apartment, a comfortable silence settled between them, the kind that exists when important things have been said and understood. At her door, Alexander maintained a respectful distance. "I have another business trip next week, but I'd like to meet when I return to hear how the program implementations are progressing." "I'd like that," Olivia replied. As she watched him walk away down the corridor, Olivia felt a curious mixture of emotions. Part of her wished he had been less honorable, less willing to acknowledge the complexities of their situation. But the larger part respected him all the more for his restraint and consideration. Inside her apartment, she checked on Lily, who was still at the building's movie night. The empty rooms felt full of possibility rather than emptiness. A space where she and her daughter could build a new life free from the constant pressure of survival that had defined their existence for so long. Her phone chimed with a text from Alexander. "Thank you for an enjoyable evening. I meant what I said about respecting boundaries, but I also want you to know that you're remarkable, Olivia Chen. Not because of what you've overcome, but because of who you are." Olivia read the message twice, feeling something unfamiliar unfurling in her chest. Not gratitude or obligation, but the tentative beginning of something that might, given time and space to grow naturally, become much more significant than either of them had anticipated when a wrong number connected them in the darkness before dawn. 3 months later, Olivia stood at the podium in Horizon's largest conference room, presenting her findings to the executive leadership team. Her hands no longer trembled when she addressed a room full of senior managers. Her voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who knew her worth. "The pilot program in the Chicago community clinics has exceeded all expectations," she explained, gesturing to the data displayed on the screen behind her. "By simplifying the application process and providing on-site assistance, we've increased enrollment in our patient support programs by 187% in just 8 weeks. The room buzzed with approving murmurs as executives examined the numbers on their tablets. Olivia continued, "More importantly, we're reaching demographics that previously had almost no utilization of our programs. Single parents, elderly patients without digital access, and non-English speakers." Dr. Hoffman, once her skeptic, but now her strongest ally, spoke up from his seat near the front. "The financial implications are significant as well. By getting medications to patients before their conditions worsen, we're seeing decreased hospitalizations and emergency interventions." Olivia nodded, advancing to her final slide. "Which brings me to our next phase proposal. I believe we should Expand this model to 20 additional cities over the next 6 months, with a focus on areas with the highest rates of medication non-adherence due to cost barriers. As she outlined the implementation plan, Olivia was acutely aware of Alexander sitting at the far end of the conference table. Though they had maintained their agreement of professional distance, his presence still affected her in ways she tried to minimize. Their interactions had been limited to formal meetings and occasional progress updates, always with others present. When she concluded her presentation, the room erupted in applause. The chief operating officer immediately approved the expansion budget, and several division heads approached with congratulations and offers of departmental support. As the room gradually emptied, Olivia gathered her materials, a sense of accomplishment warming her chest. In just 3 months, she had transformed from a desperate mother texting for help to a respected executive implementing programs that would help thousands of families like hers. That was exceptional work. She looked up to find Alexander standing. Nearby, his expression one of professional admiration, carefully controlled. "Thank you," Olivia replied, maintaining the same professional tone. "The field teams deserve most of the credit for implementation." "The concept was yours," Alexander countered, "and your presentation made the impact undeniable." An awkward silence fell between them, the consequence of deliberately maintained distance, despite a connection both felt but neither acknowledged. "How is Lily?" Alexander asked, shifting to safer territory. Olivia's expression softened. "Thriving. She loves the preschool program, and her vocabulary is expanding every day. She asked about you last week, actually." Surprise flickered across Alexander's face. "She remembers me. I keep the thank you card she made for you on our refrigerator," Olivia explained. "She asks sometimes when Mr. Alex will visit again." The simple reminder of their personal connection cut through the professional veneer they had both carefully maintained. For a moment, Alexander's expression revealed the conflict he felt, the desire to be part of their lives, battling against his commitment to giving Olivia space to establish herself independently. "I'd like to see her sometime," he said finally, "if that would be appropriate." "I think she'd like that," Olivia replied, gathering her courage. "Perhaps dinner at our apartment, next week, after you return from New York?" The invitation hung between them, technically within the bounds of their agreement, but nudging at its edges. "I'd like that very much," Alexander said quietly. Their moment was interrupted by Sarah Winters, who approached with purpose in her stride. "Sorry to interrupt, but Alexander, the FDA representatives are waiting in your office, and Olivia, there's an urgent call from the Chicago implementation team." Reality intruded, reminding them both of their responsibilities. With a nod of acknowledgement, they parted ways, each returning to the roles that defined their professional relationship, while leaving the possibility of something more delicately balanced between them. Later that afternoon, as Olivia wrapped up the call with the Chicago team, Sarah appeared in her doorway with an unusual expression, somewhere between concern and curiosity. "Do you have a moment?" Sarah asked, closing the door behind her. "Of course," Olivia replied, gesturing to the chairs opposite her desk. "Is there an issue with the expansion plan?" Sarah shook her head. "Nothing like that. This is more personal." She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I've worked with Alexander for 15 years. I've seen him build this company from a small research lab to what it is today." Olivia waited, uncertain where this was heading. "In all that time," Sarah continued, "I've never seen him as engaged with a project or a person as he is. With you and your initiatives." Olivia felt heat rise to her cheeks. "We've maintained a strictly professional relationship, as agreed." "I know," Sarah said with a small smile. "That's part of what I find so interesting. Alexander has dated occasionally over the years, always accomplished, sophisticated women from his social circle. None of those relationships lasted more than a few months. "I'm not sure why you're telling me this," Olivia said, discomfort growing. Sarah leaned forward slightly. "Because I've watched him deliberately hold himself at a distance from you, despite being more invested in your success than I've ever seen him with anyone. And I've watched you do the same." "It's complicated," Olivia said defensively. "The ego's power dynamic alone is a legitimate concern," Sarah finished for her, "but it's also a convenient shield for two people afraid of risking something genuine." The directness of Sarah's observation struck Olivia silent. Was that what they were doing? Using professional boundaries as protection against deeper emotional vulnerability? "I'm not suggesting you should ignore the complexities," Sarah continued, more gently. "Just that you shouldn't hide behind them indefinitely if there's something worth exploring." Before Olivia could respond, her phone chimed with an urgent message. The childcare center calling about Lily. "I need to take this," she said, reaching for her phone with sudden concern. Sarah nodded and stood to leave. "Just something to consider," she said, closing the door quietly behind her. The call sent Olivia rushing to the childcare center where she found Lily feverish and lethargic, symptoms that triggered immediate anxiety after their previous medical crisis. The center's nurse was monitoring her carefully but recommended medical evaluation. Without thinking, Olivia texted Alexander, "Lily has high fever. Taking her to doctor. May need to reschedule tomorrow's strategy meeting." His response was immediate. "Don't worry about the meeting. Do you need anything? Should I send Dr. Patel?" The offer reminded Olivia of their first interaction, his immediate response to a stranger's distress. But they weren't strangers anymore, and the context had changed entirely. "We're okay. Pediatrician can see her in 30 minutes. Just wanted to explain my absence." "Keep me updated," came his reply, followed quickly by another message. "As a friend, not as your CEO." The distinction touched something in Olivia, an acknowledgement of the relationship that existed beyond their professional roles. At the pediatrician's office, Lily was diagnosed with a common virus, nothing as serious as the pneumonia that had brought them into Alexander's life, but still requiring rest and monitoring. Olivia brought her home, setting up a makeshift bed on the living room sofa where she could keep close watch. As evening fell, a delivery arrived: chicken soup from Antonio's restaurant, children's fever medicine, a new soft blanket with butterflies that matched Lily's bedroom decor, and a stuffed penguin wearing a tiny lab coat. The note read simply, "Thought these might help. Call if you need anything at all." A. The thoughtfulness of the gesture, practical comfort rather than extravagance, brought tears to Olivia's eyes. This wasn't the action of a CEO checking on a valuable employee. This was someone who cared about them as people, who remembered details about their lives and preferences. Lily hugged the penguin to her chest, despite her fever. "From Mr. Alex?" she asked sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. He heard you weren't feeling well." "He's nice," Lily murmured, drifting toward sleep. "Like a daddy should be." The innocent observation caught Olivia off guard. Lily had never known her biological father, who had vanished before her birth. The idea that her daughter had been forming her own impressions about Alexander and his role in their lives was both touching and alarming. Later that night, after Lily's fever had broken and she was sleeping peacefully, Olivia texted Alexander, "Thank you for the care package. Lily loved the penguin doctor. She's doing much better now." "I'm glad to hear it. Still planning to be out tomorrow?" "Yes, the doctor recommended keeping her home for 24 hours after the fever breaks." There was a brief pause before his next message. "Would it be helpful if I stopped by tomorrow evening? I could bring dinner and those program documents you wanted to review." The offer was carefully phrased, a professional courtesy with a personal dimension. Olivia considered her response thoughtfully, Sarah's earlier words echoing in her mind. That would be nice. Lily would be happy to see you. Only after sending the message did Olivia realize she hadn't mentioned her own feelings about seeing him. Perhaps that omission said more than any explicit statement could have. The next day passed in a gentle rhythm of caring for Lily, who improved steadily throughout the day. By afternoon, she was coloring at the coffee table, her energy returning. Though Olivia insisted she continue resting. "Is Mr. Alex really coming to visit?" Lily asked for the third time, her excitement growing as the hour approached. "Yes, and he's bringing dinner for us," Olivia replied, trying to temper her daughter's expectations. "But he might not stay long. He's very busy with work." Lily nodded solemnly, absorbing this adult reality. "He helps sick people get medicine, like I needed when my chest hurt." The simple explanation of Alexander's work, filtered through a child's understanding, struck Olivia as profoundly accurate. Beneath the corporate structure and global initiatives was that essential mission, helping sick people get medicine. At precisely 6 o'clock, there was a knock at their door. Olivia smoothed her hair reflexively before opening it to find Alexander, holding 2 bags from Antonio's and a portfolio tucked under his arm. "Special delivery," he said with a warm smile. "How's the patient?" Before Olivia could answer, Lily appeared beside her, still in her butterfly pajamas. "Mr. Alex, I got sick, but I'm better now. Look at my penguin doctor." She held up the stuffed animal proudly. Alexander knelt down to her level, his formal business demeanor melting away completely. "Dr. Penguin looks very professional. Has he been taking good care of you?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "He gave me medicine and soup and made my fever go away." "Sounds like excellent medical care," Alexander replied seriously, as if discussing treatment with a colleague. Olivia watched their interaction with a tightness in her chest. The easy rapport between them, the gentleness with which Alexander engaged with her daughter, the natural way he balanced playfulness with respect for Lily's perspective. "Come in," she said, taking one of the bags from him. "Everything smells delicious." Their dinner together had a comfortable domesticity that belied the complexities of their situation. Alexander helped Lily twirl spaghetti on her fork, shared stories about a penguin exhibit he had visited in Australia, and listened attentively as the toddler described her preschool art projects. Olivia found herself observing more than participating, struck by how natural Alexander seemed in their home, how seamlessly he fit into their small family unit despite the careful distance they had maintained professionally. After Lily reluctantly went to bed, extracting a promise from Alexander to visit again soon, the adults settled at the dining table with the program documents he had brought. "She's remarkable," Alexander said, glancing toward Lily's bedroom. "So articulate and thoughtful for her age." "She surprises me every day," Olivia agreed. "I worry sometimes that our difficult start affected her development, but she seems to have bounced back completely." Alexander's expression grew serious. "Children are resilient, but they also need stability and security. You've given her that, despite overwhelming obstacles." The conversation shifted to the program documents, but there was a new undercurrent between them, an awareness that the professional pretense was wearing increasingly thin. As Alexander prepared to leave later that evening, he paused at the door. "I've been thinking about our agreement." Olivia's heart quickened. "Oh, you've more than established yourself at Horizon," he said carefully. "Your work stands on its own merit. No one questions your qualifications or contribution anymore." "That's true," Olivia acknowledged, "which means the professional distance we agreed to maintain might no longer be necessary for that purpose." Alexander's eyes held hers steadily. "Unless you still feel it's important for other reasons." The question hung between them, an invitation to reconsider the boundaries they had established months ago. "I've been thinking about that too," Olivia admitted, "especially after something Sarah said to me yesterday." Alexander raised an eyebrow. "Sarah has never been one to stay out of matters she considers important. She suggested we might be using professional boundaries as a shield against emotional risk." A small smile touched Alexander's lips. "That sounds like Sarah, uncomfortably perceptive." "Was she wrong?" Olivia asked quietly. Alexander's expression grew serious again. "No, at least not about me." He took a deep breath. "The truth is, Olivia, I've maintained distance not just for your professional standing, but because I'm afraid of what might happen if I allowed myself to get closer to you and Lily." The admission of vulnerability from such a powerful man was startling. "What are you afraid of?" "Disappointment, failure." Alexander's voice dropped lower. "I've built a company that helps thousands of people, but I've never succeeded at building a lasting personal connection. What if I can't be what you and Lily need?" The question revealed a depth of insecurity Olivia hadn't expected. A reminder that wealth and power didn't eliminate fundamental human fears. "I think," she said carefully, "that's a risk two people usually figure out together, rather than deciding unilaterally." Hope flickered in Alexander's eyes. "Are you suggesting we should try?" "I'm suggesting," Olivia replied, gathering her courage, "that maybe it's time to stop pretending our relationship is only professional. We could start simply, a real dinner, without work documents or professional pretexts." "I'd like that very much," Alexander said, the formality of his typical speech giving way to something more genuine. "Would Saturday evening work for you? I know a place where Lily would be welcome too." The inclusion of her daughter in the invitation touched Olivia deeply. Saturday would be perfect. As Alexander left, Olivia felt a sense of stepping over, a threshold, not just in their relationship, but in her own life. For so long, she had defined herself by her struggles and limitations. The idea of choosing possibility over protection, of risking vulnerability for the chance at something meaningful, represented a profound shift in how she saw herself and her future. Saturday arrived with a sense of anticipation that Olivia hadn't felt in years. She dressed Lily in her favorite blue dress with tiny daisies and chose for herself a simple but elegant outfit that reflected her evolving sense of self, neither the struggling single mother she had been nor an attempt to match the corporate polish of Alexander's usual social circle. When Alexander arrived to pick them up, he brought a small gift for Lily, a children's book about a penguin family, and a single yellow rose for Olivia. "Yellow for friendship," he explained with a smile that suggested the possibility of more. The restaurant he had chosen was perfect, upscale enough to feel special, but relaxed enough that Lily's presence felt natural. The staff knew Alexander and had prepared a special corner table with a booster seat for Lily and crayons for drawing. As they settled in, Olivia noticed something different about Alexander. A relaxation in his posture, a lightness in his expression that was usually absent in their professional interactions. Outside the constraints of their workplace relationship, he seemed younger, more accessible. "I realized something this week," Alexander said as they waited for their appetizers. "In all our conversations, we've never really talked about ordinary things. Favorite books, childhood memories, whether pineapple belongs on pizza." Olivia laughed. "It definitely does not." "See? Already learning crucial information," Alexander teased, his eyes crinkling with genuine amusement. What followed was the kind of conversation that forms the foundation of real connection. Meandering, personal, punctuated by laughter and moments of surprising alignment. They discovered shared tastes in music, contradictory opinions about films, and similar childhood dreams despite vastly different circumstances. Lily contributed her own perspectives, drawing both adults into her world of imagination and straightforward logic. When the subject of favorite animals arose, she launched into a detailed explanation of why penguins were superior to all other creatures, complete with improvised waddling demonstration beside their table. "You're building quite a penguin collection," Alexander observed, glancing at the stuffed Dr. Penguin Lily had insisted on bringing and the book he had given her. "They're like you," Lily declared with the certainty of childhood. Alexander looked bemused. "How am I like a penguin?" "They wear fancy black and white suits," Lily explained seriously, "and they take care of their babies even when it's really, really cold." The innocent comparison brought unexpected emotion to Alexander's eyes. He reached across the table, briefly touching Olivia's hand. "Your daughter has a way of cutting straight to what matters." The evening passed in a gentle flow of conversation and connection, free from the constraints and calculations that had characterized their previous interactions. By the time they finished dessert, ice cream for Lily, tiramisu shared between the adults, something fundamental had shifted between them. As Alexander drove them home, Lily fell asleep in her car seat, exhausted from the excitement and attention. In the quiet of the sleeping child's presence, Alexander spoke softly. "I haven't enjoyed an evening that much in years," he admitted. "Maybe ever." "Neither have I," Olivia replied honestly. "It felt real," Alexander finished for her, "not shaped by expectations or circumstances or professional considerations, just real." The simplicity of the observation captured exactly what had been missing in their carefully managed relationship until now. At their apartment door, with Lily sleeping against his shoulder after he had carried her from the car, Alexander paused. "I'd like to do this again, not as a CEO and an employee, not as a benefactor and recipient, just as Alexander and Olivia." Olivia looked up at him, at this powerful man holding her sleeping daughter with such gentle care, and felt the last of her reservations dissolving. "I'd like that too," she said softly. "Very much." As he carefully transferred Lily to her arms, their faces came close, a moment of potential that hung between them. With deliberate restraint, Alexander stepped back slightly. "Good night, Olivia," he said, his voice carrying the promise of many more evenings to come. "Thank you for sharing your Saturday with me." "Good night, Alexander," she replied, the formal name feeling right for this moment of new beginning. As she closed the door behind him, Olivia carried her sleeping daughter to bed with a sense of expanding possibility. The accidental text message that had connected them months ago had led to something neither could have anticipated. The tentative beginning of a relationship built not on crisis or obligation, but on genuine connection and mutual respect. In the quiet of her apartment, surrounded by the new life that had emerged from her darkest moment, Olivia allowed herself to envision a future different from anything she had dared to imagine before. One where wrong numbers sometimes led exactly where they were meant to go. The massive conference hall fell silent as Olivia approached the podium. 600 healthcare professionals, government officials, and patient advocates waited expectantly for her address. The backdrop behind her displayed the bold, new initiative, Bridge Access, eliminating barriers to essential medications. At the center of the logo was a stylized bridge spanning between a prescription bottle and a hand, symbolizing the program that had transformed healthcare access for thousands of vulnerable families across the country. 2 years ago, Olivia began, her voice steady and confident. "My daughter was critically ill with pneumonia. We had been turned away from 2 hospitals because our insurance had lapsed. In desperation, I texted her doctor, but misdialed." A knowing murmur rippled through the audience. The story had become something of a legend in healthcare circles. "That wrong number connected me to Alexander Donovan, CEO of Horizon Pharmaceuticals. What followed wasn't just a personal rescue, but the beginning of a systemic transformation in how pharmaceutical companies approach patient access. Olivia gestured to the screen behind her, which shifted to display the program's impressive statistics. 73 cities, over 40,000 families served, medication adherence rates improved by 68% among previously underserved populations. Today, I'm proud to announce that Bridge Access is expanding internationally. Starting next month, we'll be implementing our community-based application assistance model in 12 countries, focusing first on regions where medication access is most severely limited by economic and infrastructural barriers. Applause erupted throughout the hall. In the front row, Alexander watched with quiet pride, Lily sitting beside him, drawing in a penguin-themed notebook. At 4 years old, she was too young to understand the significance of her mother's work, but old enough to know it was important. As Olivia concluded her speech and the conference broke for lunch, she joined Alexander and Lily at their table. The toddler immediately presented her with an elaborate drawing. "Look, Mama, I drew our family helping sick people get medicine." Olivia examined the colorful scribbles that somehow perfectly captured their journey. 3 stick figures standing on what appeared to be a bridge, passing bottles to smaller figures below. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," she said, meeting Alexander's eyes over their daughter's head. The word family no longer caused awkward pauses between them. Over the past year, they had gradually woven their lives together, moving from cautious dating to a deep partnership that encompassed both their personal connection and their shared mission. "Your speech was perfect," Alexander said, squeezing her hand gently. "You have a way of making statistics feel human." "I learned from experience," Olivia replied. "Numbers don't motivate change. Stories do." Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Hoffman, who approached with the FDA commissioner in tow. "Ms. Chen, the commissioner was very impressed with the program data and would like to discuss potential policy implications." "Of course," Olivia replied. As she rose to follow them, Alexander gave her hand another squeeze. "We'll be right here," he promised, already turning his attention to Lily, who was explaining the finer points of her artwork. The scene captured everything that had changed in 2 years. Olivia's transformation from desperate mother to healthcare policy influencer, Alexander's evolution from isolated corporate leader to engaged partner and father figure, and the system-wide changes they had catalyzed together. Later that evening, after the conference sessions had ended, Alexander surprised Olivia and Lily with a detour on their way back to the hotel. "Where are we going?" Olivia asked, as their car turned toward the outskirts of the city. "You'll see," Alexander replied, with a mysterious smile. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a small community clinic in a working-class neighborhood. The modest building was bustling with activity despite the evening hour, with families entering and exiting steadily. This was the first pilot site for bridge access outside of Boston, Alexander explained as they walked toward the entrance. "I wanted you to see something." Inside, the waiting area was clean and welcoming, with a dedicated corner where a staff member sat with several clients, helping them complete forms on tablets. On the wall was a large sign reading, "Medication Access Assistance, no insurance required." A woman emerged from an examination room with a young boy, a prescription in hand. Instead of leaving the clinic, she approached the assistance desk. Within minutes, she was holding not just the prescription, but the actual medication her son needed. As they watched from a discreet distance, Alexander spoke quietly. "Before our program, that mother would have left with a prescription she couldn't afford to fill. Her child's condition would have worsened, potentially leading to an emergency room visit or hospitalization. Instead, she's leaving with treatment that will keep him healthy, at a cost she can manage." Olivia felt tears pricking her eyes. This is what it's all about, isn't it? Not conference speeches or expansion announcements, but this moment right here. Alexander nodded, his expression serious. One family at a time, multiplied across hundreds of clinics. This is why I built Horizon in the first place, before quarterly reports and shareholder expectations complicated the mission. Lily, observing the interaction with the curiosity of childhood, pointed to the mother and son. They look happy. Now. Yes, sweetheart, Olivia agreed, kneeling to her daughter's level. They're happy because they got help when they needed it, just like we did. The clinic director noticed them and approached with a warm smile. Mr. Donovan, Ms. Chen, we weren't expecting you. Are you here for an official visit? Not official, Alexander replied. I wanted Olivia to see the program in action at the grassroots level. How are things going? Transformative, the director said with genuine enthusiasm. Our medication adherence rates have increased dramatically, and we're seeing fewer return visits for worsened conditions. The community outreach team has been particularly effective in reaching our elderly population, who were previously falling through the cracks. As the director continued sharing success stories, Olivia watched the steady flow of patients receiving care without the fear and desperation that had once defined her own healthcare experiences. The system wasn't perfect, no system ever could be, but it was better, more humane, more accessible than before. When they finally returned to their hotel, Lily was half asleep, the excitement of the day catching up with her. After tucking her into bed in the adjoining room of their suite, Olivia joined Alexander on the balcony overlooking the city lights. "Thank you for taking us to the clinic," she said, accepting the glass of wine he offered. "Sometimes I get so caught up in program metrics and implementation strategies that I forget about the individual lives we're touching." Alexander nodded thoughtfully. "It's the paradox of scale. We want to help thousands, but in doing so, we risk losing sight of the one." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping their wine and absorbing the peaceful evening after a day of professional intensity. "I have something to discuss with you," Alexander said finally, his tone suggesting importance. Olivia turned to face him fully. "That sounds serious." "It is," he acknowledged. "The board has been discussing Horizon's leadership structure. They've proposed creating a new position, Executive Director of Patient Advocacy and Access Programs, with global oversight of all our initiatives." "That sounds like an excellent idea," Olivia replied, wondering why he seemed hesitant. "Who are they considering for the role?" "You," Alexander said simply. "They want you to lead all of Horizon's access initiatives worldwide." Olivia stared at him, processing the enormity of the opportunity. "That would be a significant promotion." "It would," Alexander agreed, "and it comes with complications." Understanding dawned on Olivia. "Because of our relationship," Alexander nodded. "If you accept, you would report directly to the board, rather than to me, to avoid any conflict of interest. But there would still be scrutiny, assumptions about favoritism." "Do you think I shouldn't take it?" Olivia asked, studying his expression. "On the contrary," Alexander replied quickly. "I think you're the most qualified person for the position. Your vision has driven our most successful initiatives. No one understands the mission better than you do." "But," Olivia prompted, sensing his reservation. Alexander sighed. "But I don't want it to undermine what you've built professionally or to complicate what we've built personally." The concern touched Olivia deeply, evidence of how far they had come from their initial agreement to maintain professional distance. Alexander was considering not just the opportunity itself, but its impact on all dimensions of their lives. "What do you think I should do?" she asked, valuing his perspective without feeling bound by it. "I think," Alexander said carefully, "that you should make the decision based on where you can have the greatest impact on the work that matters to you. And I think whatever you decide, we'll figure out the personal implications together." His answer reflected the partnership they had built, supportive without being directive, respectful of her autonomy while acknowledging their connection. "I'd want to ensure the position comes with true authority," Olivia mused, already considering the practical aspects, not just a title, but actual decision-making power over program design and implementation. Alexander smiled. "Already negotiating terms before accepting?" "Just thinking aloud," Olivia replied with a smile of her own. "It's a significant opportunity. I'll need time to consider all the implications." "Of course," Alexander agreed. "The board doesn't need an answer immediately." He hesitated briefly before continuing. "There's something else I wanted to discuss with you tonight. Something personal." The shift in his tone caught Olivia's attention. "What is it?" Alexander set his wineglass down and turned to face her fully. "These past 2 years have been transformative, professionally for both of us, but more importantly, personally for me. Before that wrong number text, I was existing rather than living, focused on corporate goals without real human connection." The sincerity in his voice touched something deep within Olivia. "Alexander," he gently raised a hand to continue. "Please, let me finish. I've been thinking about this for a long time." He took a deep breath. "You and Lily have become my family in every way that matters. I can't imagine my life without you both in it." With a smooth movement that suggested rehearsal, Alexander withdrew a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a ring, elegant but not ostentatious, with a center diamond flanked by 2 smaller sapphires. "Olivia Chen, would you do me the extraordinary honor of marrying me? Of making official the family we've already become in our hearts?" Though they had been moving steadily toward deeper commitment, the proposal still took Olivia's breath away. She looked at the man before her, so different from the formal CEO who had first helped her in crisis, yet fundamentally the same in his compassion and integrity. "Yes," she said softly, then with growing certainty. "Yes, I would love to marry you." As Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger, Olivia was struck by the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a desperate text message sent to a wrong number, to a partnership that had transformed not only their lives, but the lives of thousands of families facing similar struggles. "Should we tell Lily now or in the morning?" Alexander asked, his eyes bright with joy. "Morning," Olivia decided. "She'll be too excited to go back to sleep if we tell her tonight." Alexander laughed, pulling her close. "Fair point. Though I'm not sure how much sleep I'll get myself. I've been nervous about this all week." "You were nervous?" Olivia asked, surprised. "I thought CEOs didn't get nervous." "This CEO does, about the things that truly matter," Alexander admitted. "You and Lily matter more than anything else in my life." The simple truth of his statement reflected how profoundly they had changed each other. Olivia finding strength and purpose beyond survival, Alexander rediscovering the human connection and meaning that success alone couldn't provide. The next morning brought sunny skies and Lily's unbridled excitement at the news of their engagement. She bounced around their hotel suite, examining Olivia's ring from every angle and asking dozens of questions about weddings. "Will I get to wear a pretty dress too?" she asked, twirling to demonstrate her readiness for such an occasion. "The prettiest dress," Alexander promised, "and a very important job as our official flower girl." "What's a flower girl?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. As Alexander launched into an explanation of wedding traditions, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Winters. Congratulations. He finally worked up the courage. The entire executive team has been waiting months for this announcement. Olivia laughed, showing the message to Alexander, who shook his head with mock indignation. So much for corporate confidentiality. Was there anyone who didn't know I was planning to propose? Apparently not, Olivia replied, scrolling through the stream of congratulatory messages already flooding her phone. Though I managed to remain oblivious, so your secret was safe from the person who mattered most. Their flight home that afternoon was delayed by weather, leaving them with unexpected free time. Alexander suggested a visit to the city's renowned children's museum, where Lily could burn off energy before the journey. As they explored the exhibits together, Olivia found herself observing their interactions with new awareness. Alexander knelt beside Lily at the water table, helping her build a complex system of dams and channels, his expensive suit forgotten as they experimented with flow and resistance. The CEO, who commanded boardrooms and negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, was completely present with the 4-year-old's scientific explorations, his attention undivided and genuine. Later, as Lily investigated the butterfly garden with a museum guide, Alexander and Olivia sat on a nearby bench, hands loosely entwined. "I've been thinking about the board's offer," Olivia said thoughtfully, "the executive director position." Alexander turned to her with interest. "And? I want to accept," she decided, "but with conditions that protect both the integrity of the work and our personal relationship." "What conditions did you have in mind?" Alexander asked. "First, complete programmatic autonomy," Olivia stated confidently. "The board can review outcomes, but implementation decisions stay with my team. Second, transparent disclosure of our relationship in all corporate communications to address any perception of favoritism head-on. And third, a separate evaluation committee for my performance reviews with no input from you." Alexander nodded approvingly. "All reasonable and wise conditions. The board will likely accept them without hesitation." "There's one more thing," Olivia added. "I want to establish a special emergency response protocol, a direct line for cases like mine was, families in immediate crisis who need intervention, before they can navigate the regular assistance programs." The request connected directly to their beginning, acknowledging that while systemic change was their goal, individual emergencies would always exist, requiring immediate compassion and action. "We'll call it the Lily Protocol," Alexander suggested, glancing toward the child who had inadvertently brought them together. "A direct line for families in critical situations, bypassing normal channels when time is of the essence." The name brought tears to Olivia's eyes, a perfect acknowledgement of how their personal story had informed their professional mission. "I think that's perfect," she agreed softly. Their moment was interrupted by Lily rushing back to them, bubbling with excitement about the butterflies she had seen and touched. As they listened to her animated descriptions, Olivia felt a profound sense of completion, not as an ending, but as a foundation for everything yet to come. That evening, after finally boarding their delayed flight home, Lily fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the day's adventures. In the dimmed cabin, Alexander turned to Olivia with a thoughtful expression. "I've been considering something about our wedding," he said quietly. "What's that?" Olivia asked, expecting a discussion about venues or dates. "I'd like to invite some of the families who have been helped by bridge access," Alexander explained. Steen on. Not as some corporate PR move, but as a genuine acknowledgement that our personal happiness and our professional mission are intertwined, that they're part of our story too." The suggestion was so perfectly aligned with who they were, both individually and together, that Olivia felt her heart expand with love for this man who understood her so completely. "I think that's a beautiful idea," she said. Perhaps we could establish a foundation as our wedding gift to each other, something separate from Horizon that focuses specifically on families facing medical crises. Alexander's eyes lit up. With enthusiasm, the Chen Donovan Family Foundation, supporting families through medical emergencies and recovery. With a special focus on single parents, Olivia added, thinking of her own journey. They spent the remainder of the flight sketching ideas for this new shared vision, their whispered conversation full of possibility and purpose. By the time they began their descent toward Boston, they had outlined not just a foundation, but a new chapter in their life together, one that honored the past that had brought them together while building toward a future of expanded impact. As the plane touched down, Lily stirred awake, blinking sleepily. "Are we home?" The simple question carried layers of meaning that weren't lost on either adult. Home was no longer just a physical place, but the connection they had built together. A family forged first through crisis, then choice, and finally deep love. "Yes, sweetheart," Olivia answered, meeting Alexander's gaze over their daughter's head. "We're home." 6 months later, Olivia stood in a sunlit room, adjusting the delicate veil in her hair. The wedding dress she had chosen was elegant but simple, reflecting the woman she had become, rather than the fairy tale fantasies that had never aligned with her practical nature. Sarah Winters entered, looking uncharacteristically emotional. "Everything is ready. The guests are seated. Alexander is at the altar looking simultaneously terrified and ecstatic, and Lily is taking her flower girl responsibilities extremely seriously." Olivia laughed, picturing her daughter's determined expression as she prepared for her important role. "How are our special guests doing?" "The families?" Sarah smiled. "They're settled in the reserve section, 27 families, in total from all over the country. The Foundation's first beneficiaries. The Chen Donovan Family Foundation had already assisted nearly 30 families facing medical emergencies, similar to what Olivia had experienced 2.5 years earlier. Each family at the wedding represented a story of crisis met with compassion, of systems navigated with support rather than isolation. "It's time," Sarah said gently, offering Olivia her bouquet of yellow roses, the same flower Alexander had brought her on their first real date, now a symbol of the friendship that had blossomed into love. As Olivia walked down the aisle toward Alexander, she passed rows of people whose lives had intersected with theirs in meaningful ways. Colleagues who had become friends, families they had helped, and in the front row, Dr. Patel, who had answered Alexander's call that fateful night when a desperate text message connected them. Lily preceded her, scattering yellow petals with meticulous attention to even distribution, her face a picture of solemn joy. When she reached the altar, she moved to stand beside Alexander, who bent to whisper something that made her beam with pride. When Olivia reached them, Alexander took her hands in his eyes reflecting all they had built and all that lay ahead. 2 years ago, the officiant began, a wrong number connected 2 strangers in a moment of crisis. Today, we gather to celebrate how that single misdirected message grew into a partnership that has transformed not only 2 lives, but thousands of others. As they exchanged vows, Olivia thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment, from her desperate text sent in the darkest hour of night to this bright celebration of connection and possibility. The path hadn't been direct or simple, but it had led exactly where they were meant to be. "Sometimes," Alexander said, "in his vows, the greatest blessings come from what appear to be mistakes. A wrong number became the most right thing in my life." After the ceremony, as they greeted their guests at the reception, one of the foundation families approached, a young father with a child in a wheelchair. "I just wanted to thank you," "Oath," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "When my son needed specialized treatment our insurance wouldn't cover, I thought we had nowhere to turn. The foundation didn't just help with the medical bills, it gave us hope when we needed it most." Olivia embraced him, remembering her own desperation and the profound difference that compassion had made. "That's exactly why we're here," she said simply. Later, as they shared their first dance as husband and wife, Alexander held Olivia close, speaking softly in her ear. "Do you ever think about how different life would be if you had dialed the right number that night?" Olivia considered the question seriously. "I used to think it was just luck, a fortunate mistake. Now I'm not so sure it was a mistake at all." "What do you mean?" Alexander asked, curious. "Some connections feel meant to be," Olivia explained, "as if something larger than ourselves brings the right people together at exactly the moment. They need each other." Alexander smiled, spinning her gently under the twinkling lights. "A cosmic wrong number that was actually right all along." "Something like that," Olivia agreed. "Whatever it was, I'm grateful every day that you answered." As the music continued around them, they moved together in perfect harmony. Two lives that had collided by chance but continued by choice, creating ripples of change that extended far beyond themselves. From crisis had come connection. From connection, purpose. From purpose, love. And from love, a legacy of compassion that would continue long after their dance concluded. In the corner, Lily was teaching one of the foundation children how to twirl in her flower girl dress, their laughter a reminder of why it all mattered. Not the programs or statistics or corporate initiatives, but the individual lives touched and transformed by simple human kindness in moments of greatest need. A wrong number had connected them, but the right hearts had kept them together, proving that sometimes the most profound changes begin with the simplest actions, and the greatest love stories start in the most unexpected ways. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.